guys, we're here. We're going to do this. This week's distance learning lesson is on embryos. I know you're all super excited to do this at home because we're talking about embryology. Embryology is the study of embryos. That's a great definition, right? I'm sure you all understand what it is now. The study of embryos. So what is an embryo? An embryo is just a tiny organism in its earliest stages of development. So that's like you, when you were in your mommy's tummy and you were 1 week old or 2 weeks old or 3 weeks or 4 or 5, maybe 6, possibly 7 or 8. I'd even hazard a guess that 9 weeks you'd still be an embryo, possibly 10. And you might be wondering, why are we studying embryology? I know this is a super, super fun topic for all of you and for anyone around the world to want to know about embryos. It's probably one of the most important topics of the day. So we study embryos in order to determine evolutionary... Freaking spam calls right in the middle of my video. We study embryos to determine evolutionary relationships. Because when you look at embryos, you'll see that most of them look the same. Ooh. Again, I know you're super interested in this. So am I. You'll see that most of the embryos look the same. So what does that tell us about evolutionary relationships? Well, it tells us that we must share a common ancestor at some point in time, right? So when you're 1 week old and a fish is 1 week old, you look pretty similar, which is kind of odd. Why would you look the same as a fish? Well, it's because you share some DNA and you share some genes with that certain animal. So I have this PowerPoint that I made, which is now a video, and there are various slides on here, and you're going to go through the video with my help, of course, and you're going to look at these embryos in different stages of development. So we have stage 1 of development for all 6 of these embryos that you're seeing now. And if you can't tell, they all look alike. They all look the same. And it's really hard to tell which one is which. I wanted you to try this. I have a little chart graphic here where it lists the embryos, the actual animals, and then you see the embryos, and you're supposed to guess which embryos are which. So which one is a chicken, which one is a human, a salamander, a fish, a tortoise, a rabbit, which one is which? Just put a letter next to which one you think is which, and you can write this in your notebook on a little chart if you kind of copy what I've done. As we move on to the next slide, you'll see that a couple of the embryos have kind of changed, and you might be able to tell what they are now, like the salamander and the fish perhaps. Maybe you didn't get that. But that's what it looks like, right, that they've changed into. This is the second stage of development, and you'll see that at least 4 of those still look pretty much the same, right? So it's hard to tell which one of those 4 is which. You may not know what a fish and a salamander are, and so that might be why the first 2 are a little more difficult for you to decide, but you can always Google those. So on this second slide, what you're doing is telling me which ones you guessed wrong. So if you got one right, great, ding ding, you get 1,000 points of nothing. But the ones that you got wrong, you're going to re-guess. So if you thought the salamander was E and now you think it's B, tell me why. So just redo the graphic, redo the chart, and then put your new answer and say why. So maybe now you think the salamander is B because it looks like one. Or you think the fish is A because it has fins and it looks like one. The third image here tells you the answers. So now you know which one is the fish, which one is the human, the rabbit, the chicken, the tortoise, and the salamander. You know for sure which one's which. And what you're doing here is telling me what changed anatomically. So anatomically is physically. So as you look at, let's say, the human, right? You go down to that the human in the graphic, and you tell me what changed. So what's new about it that makes you know that it's a human? Does it have ears? Does it have toes and fingers? Does it have legs now? Did it lose a tail? right? There are all these things that make your brain think, ooh, this is a human. That's super exciting, Mr. Green. So tell me why you think, or what, sorry, don't tell me why you think. Tell me what has changed about each of these physically that lets you know that it is that animal now. The last thing you're going to do is turn this in. Of course, even in distance learning, I've got to know that you are doing something, right? Even though most of you are probably doing nothing and you'd rather be playing Nintendo Switch. Of course, I would as well. I'm doing very well in my Pokemon game and my Super Mario Odyssey. Thank you for asking. I think I've collected 151 moons over the course of a couple of quarantine days. It's awesome. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. You need to show me that you're actually doing something, that you're getting this information. So I've put some questions on the last slide here. And at the very bottom, you'll see that there's a miniature project for you to do in order for you to turn this in and show me that you've got it. So you're going to take the questions, you're going to answer the questions that I've put on here. And then you can just do it on a white sheet of paper. Don't make it too extravagant or make your parents go to the store because we are social distancing. Just do it on a white sheet of paper or something. You're going to put your answers to the questions on that paper. You're going to either draw or just print out and cut out and paste those 3 stages of development that were from the slides. You can get them directly from the slides if you want to, and you're going to label them. And you're also going to tell me what your answers were. I call them hypotheses, but your hypotheses are what your guesses were for each slide. So for slide 1, where you saw the embryos that all looked very similar, and then you took a guess at which ones were which, you're going to tell me what your guesses were. And then you're going to tell me what your answers were for slide 2, which guesses changed and why. And then for 3, you're going to write down what lets you know finally, physically, that these animals are what you chose or what they say that they are. So why is a human a human? As you look at that, what are the physical things that you think make it a human there? So you're going to put all that on a sheet of paper, just follow the instructions, and then you can turn that in digitally through Google Classroom. If you can find a way to do it, like on Google Docs or Google Slides, awesome. That makes it easier for me and probably for you too. Otherwise, you can just do it on a white sheet of paper, take a picture, and submit it through Google Classroom or to my email. Either way, you just need to find some way to get it to me. You're all very smart, and I've seen you do crazy ways to turn things in before. So however you got to get it to me, get it to me.